Had no idea you'd become the most dangerous woman in the room.
Zara Cole had 3 problems. 1, rent was late. 2, her last audition was a disaster. The director said she was too good for a supporting role but too unknown for a lead. 3, she just received an anonymous email offering $10,000 for one night of work as an escort to a gala event. The catch: the email specified, dress badly, wear messy hair and overdone makeup, inappropriate clothing, the more embarrassing, the better. Was it a scam? Probably. Was it dangerous? Maybe. Was she going to accept? Absolutely yes, because $10,000 was more money than she'd made from all her roles in the last 2 years combined. Chapter 1: The Impossible Offer.
I swear, I didn't know it was you.
Didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't understand any of it at the time either, just like you're not understanding now. But the detail that made this whole situation, and this series of problems, more bizarre was in the specific instructions. Dress badly, messy hair, overdone makeup, inappropriate clothing. The more embarrassing, the better. I'd read it about 5 times before realizing I wasn't having a waking nightmare, that this was real and way too specific to be regular spam. Oat milk mocha, no sugar, extra hot. I repeated the order mechanically while preparing the drink at the counter of Grind, the coffee shop where I worked to pay the bills that acting definitely didn't cover. My mind was still stuck on that email, spinning through the possibilities like a Russian roulette of potentially terrible decisions. Was it a scam? Probably. Was it dangerous? Maybe. Was I going to accept? The desperate, broke part of me already knew the answer, even though the rational part was screaming at me to delete it and never think about it again. Zara! Olivia's voice pulled me out of my trance as she walked into the cafe with that frantic energy only she could have at 9 in the morning. Did you see the email? What email? I handed the mocha to the customer and turned to her. Audition for a big movie role. Netflix. Lead. She waved her phone in my direction with a smile I knew would disappear in seconds. I grabbed my phone, opened the message, read the first few lines and felt that familiar sensation of hope dying. It's for an actress with an established name. Olivia. I don't even qualify. But you're good. Her indignation was genuine. Just being good doesn't pay rent, I said, and went back to work, trying not to think about the mysterious email glowing in my mind like a dangerous temptation. When I got home that night, I opened my laptop and reread the anonymous email. $10,000. Gala event. Dress inappropriately. After a few minutes of internal struggle, I picked up the phone and called Olivia. Zara, this is obviously a scam. Or it's someone trying to sabotage someone else. Just using me as a weapon, I countered, like a vengeful ex, hiring someone to embarrass their ex in public. There was a pause. That makes sense. But what if it's dangerous? It's a public event, Olivia. Some kind of movie gala. There'll be security, media, hundreds of people. I'll go, embarrass someone, get the $10,000 and pay 3 months of rent. You're crazy. Crazy and broke. Worst possible combination. I took a deep breath. I'm going to reply. And I did, saying, I accept. Any more details? The response came within minutes. Perfect. The event is the premiere of Crimson Shadows at the Chinese Theater, Friday at 8 p.m. Dress code, the worse, the better. Escort 4 will be revealed at the event. Payment of $10,000 will be deposited tomorrow. Confirm bank account to receive payment. Do not research the event, and do not tell anyone. Act surprised when you find out who your escort is. Good luck. A shiver ran down my spine. Damn, I mumbled. I'm really going to do this. On Friday, I spent the afternoon putting together the most ridiculous look I could create. A garish polka dot dress from the 50s, with beige cargo pants over it that created a visual clash almost artistic in its terribleness. Gray hoodie tied around my waist, beat-up thrift store leather bag, and huge round hippie-style glasses from the 70s. I pulled my hair into a high, purposely crooked bun on top of my head, so badly done it looked like a child's work. The makeup was the cherry on top. Electric blue eyeshadow covering my lids, way too much blush making my cheeks look like a creepy doll's, and bold red lipstick completing the disaster. Zara, you look like a character from a bad comedy, Olivia said through FaceTime. That's exactly the point. I spun to show the complete look. Someone wants me to be embarrassing. You still don't know who you're escorting? No idea. The email said to wait to be introduced at the event. When the Uber dropped me off in front of the Chinese theater, I almost asked to turn back. The red carpet stretched out like a river of luxury. Photographers lined up, stunning celebrities in expensive dresses, flashes exploding, voices shouting famous names, and there I was in my polka dot dress and cargo pants. An elegant woman approached. looking my outfit up and down with strange satisfaction. "Miss Cole?" "Yes." She smiled wickedly. "Perfect. Follow me." She led me through the crowd to the main entrance where the flashes were most intense. My stomach churned. "Who am I escorting?" She turned around. "You'll find out in 3, 2, 1. And arriving now, the CEO of Morgan Studios, executive producer of Crimson Shadows, Elias Morgan." I froze completely. Elias Morgan, Hollywood's most powerful CEO, the man on magazine covers who had built a cinematic empire, known for his talent and ruthless reputation. A black limousine stopped and he stepped out. Impeccable dark gray suit, magnetic presence, annoyingly perfect face with defined lines and dark eyes that seemed to see through everything. And those eyes were looking directly at me. The assistant gently pushed me. "Go. He's waiting for his escort." "No," I breathed in panic. "I'm his escort? Elias Morgan?" But my feet were already moving, carrying me toward Hollywood's most powerful man while I was dressed like a fashion nightmare. The photographers stopped. The murmuring grew. When I got close to him, close enough to see the tension in his jaw and the way his eyes scanned my outfit with controlled horror, I knew I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. My voice came out hoarse. "Sorry, I didn't know it was you." He looked at me for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was cold, cutting. "You're my escort?" "Apparently so." I swallowed hard. "I can explain." "Do you have any idea what you just did?" He gestured to the cameras, capturing everything. "I know it looks bad, but..." "Looks bad?" He interrupted me arrogantly. "You showed up at my event looking like this." "I was paid to show up like this." The words came out defensive. "I didn't know it was you." Something changed in his expression. "Paid by whom?" "Anonymous email. $10,000. I needed the money." He looked at me with disdain. "So you're an unknown actress who sold her dignity for money." "I'm an unknown actress who pays rent with honest work. And if someone offered me money to embarrass someone, I accepted because I need to survive." He raised an eyebrow. Surprised, brave, or stupid, probably both. "Elias, who is she?" The photographers shouted. "Style change." He looked at the cameras and his strategy shifted. He turned to me, voice low but firm. "You know what? Smile." "What?" "Smile. Pretend this was intentional. You're an actress, aren't you?" "How do you know?" "Later. Now act and try not to look so out of place." His hand found my waist, firm and warm. Something inside me ignited. "I know how to act. Thanks." He almost smiled. "Then prove it." And I proved it. I activated every piece of training, every class, every audition that taught me to fake confidence. I smiled for the cameras as if the ridiculous outfit was planned. I posed next to him as if we belonged together. I acted like my life depended on it. "Elias, is this a statement about freedom of expression?" He smiled, charming, but arrogant. "She's Zara Cole, a talented actress who decided to make a bold fashion statement about authenticity versus superficiality, and I found it brave and refreshing." I was shocked. Was he defending me or protecting his own image? "Zara, was this your idea?" I activated actress mode perfectly. It was a collaboration. Elias and I wanted to question beauty standards in Hollywood. The media loved the answer. That's when I saw her. Across the room, a beautiful woman in a red gala dress looking at me with pure hatred and barely disguised frustration. "See that woman?" Elias whispered in my ear. "Amelia Cross. She's the one who hired me." "Yes. And she's furious because you're doing well and we've become iconic." His voice carried dark satisfaction. "I'm still dying inside." "Me too. But nobody needs to know. Keep acting until the end. You're less unbearable when you work with me instead of against me. And you're less irritating when you use talent instead of this outfit. You're never going to forget the outfit, are you?" "Never. It'll be a joke forever." I laughed involuntarily. "You're impossible, but efficient. Look around. Everyone loves you now." I looked, and it was surreal. People were smiling at me, waving, some even taking photos. This is crazy. Welcome to Hollywood. Nothing makes sense, but results matter. At the end of the event, he led me to the limousine. Inside the car, away from cameras and expectations, the tension finally left my body. "That was intense," I said, taking off the ridiculous glasses and massaging the bridge of my nose. "You did well, better than I expected." He was relaxed now, tie loosened, the first time I'd seen him less than perfectly composed. "Better than I expected" is a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it. I don't give direct compliments easily. I noticed, "You're arrogant and difficult, and you're desperate enough to accept work from questionable sources." "Hey, that was the truth," he interrupted me. "Yes, but it was also brave. Stupid, but brave." That was almost a compliment. "Don't get used to it." He studied me with dark eyes. Was the $10,000 deposited? I checked my phone. Yes, before the event. So Amelia kept her end of the bargain, even though the plan failed spectacularly. He seemed satisfied with that. And now I take you home. You rest. Take off that terrible makeup. And tomorrow we talk about something interesting. About what? About the fact that you're a talented actress wasted on a coffee shop. There was something different in his voice now. Less arrogant. More genuine. I blushed. You researched me. During the event, yes, Griffin sent me your resume. You're good. I'm not good enough to get roles. Loaded pause. Come on, give me your number. Why? Because I have a proposal for you. Suspicion made me narrow my eyes. What kind of proposal? Professional? Maybe. Maybe. He smiled enigmatically but arrogantly. Depends on how good an actress you really are when you're not dressed like a clown. I got irritated but gave him my number anyway. You're unbearable, and you're stubborn. Perfect match for what I have in mind. When I got home, I called Olivia before even taking off the ridiculous clothes. So, how was it? Olivia? The guy was Elias Morgan. Shocked silence. The CEO? Yes. And I showed up looking like all that. Oh God. And him? He was arrogant, irritating, but he defended me. Like he turned a possible disaster into a positive viral phenomenon. Zara, you're viral. Everyone's talking about the anti-glamour fashion revolution. I know. It's surreal. And Elias? What did he say? That he wants to talk tomorrow about a professional proposal. Something tightened in my chest, remembering the way he'd looked at me. Zara, he's famous for using women. I know, but he also saved my ass today, so I'll hear what he has to say. Be careful. He can be charming, but he's a predator. He was more arrogant than charming with me. Relax. Is that good or bad? Honestly, I don't know. But I survived the strangest night of my life, so I can handle a conversation with an arrogant CEO. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the mirror. Polka dot dress, cargo pants, horrible makeup, and somehow, impossibly and absurdly, I was trending. I was iconic. And Elias Morgan had my number. My life had just completely changed. I just didn't know yet if he would be my salvation or my destruction. But considering the way my heart had raced when he smiled at me in that car, considering the way his hand on my waist had burned even through layers of clothing, considering the way something had shifted between us when we were alone away from the cameras, I had the terrible feeling it would be both. Chapter 2. The proposal I didn't expect him to call so soon.
This could change your life if you agree to my conditions.
Actually, part of me didn't expect him to call at all, because men like Elias Morgan didn't call girls like me unless they needed something. So when my phone rang at 10 the next morning, displaying an unknown number, I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello? Zara. His voice was unmistakable, that deep, controlled tone that made something strange run down my spine. Have lunch with me today. I blinked, still processing the fact that Elias Morgan was on the other end of the line. Why? Because I want to discuss something urgent. It wasn't a request. It was almost an order. La Bella Restaurant. Noon. I work at the cafe. I started to protest, but he cut me off with that characteristic impatience I was already beginning to recognize. Ask for the day off. You'll want to hear this. Okay, but if this is about you complaining about my outfit yesterday, on the contrary, there was something almost amused in his voice now. It's about the consequences of your outfit. He hung up before I could ask anything else, leaving me staring at my phone with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness I couldn't control. Consequences. What kind of consequences? I called Grind, made up some excuse about a family emergency that sounded terribly unconvincing, and spent the next hour trying to decide what to wear for lunch with Hollywood's most powerful CEO. I ended up choosing a simple navy blue dress that was probably the most elegant piece in my pathetic wardrobe. And even then, I knew I'd look underdeveloped compared to his world. La Bella was exactly the type of restaurant I imagined men like Elias frequented. All expensive minimalist decor, soft lighting, and waiters who moved with the silent efficiency that only came with extensive training. I felt completely out of place the moment I walked in, but the maitre d' recognized me immediately, which was disturbing considering my face had been all over the internet for the last 12 hours. Miss Cole, Mr. Morgan is waiting. He led me through the restaurant to a private table in the back, away from curious eyes, and there was Elias, charcoal gray suit today, impeccable as always, but there was something different about his posture. He was relaxed in a way he hadn't been yesterday, leaning back in his chair with a glass of water in his hand, dark eyes following me as I approached. You look different without yesterday's outfit, he said when I sat down, and I couldn't decide if it was a compliment or a neutral observation. Different means better, means less disastrous, but there was something in his eyes, an assessment that made my face heat up. Sit. Already sitting. Then stop looking so nervous. Are you always like this, or is it just with me? I shot back, grabbing the menu just to have something to do with my hands. Always like this. Efficiency over kindness. He placed his glass on the table and leaned slightly forward, and suddenly the space between us seemed smaller. But today I'm being kind, considering what I came to offer you. My stomach did a strange flip. Okay, I'm listening. You became a phenomenon overnight. Straight to the point. No beating around the bush. Not just news. Social media, fashion blogs, everyone talking about the anti-glamour revolution. You have 500,000 new followers since yesterday. I almost dropped the menu. 500,000? And growing. He observed my reaction with clinical interest. You're iconic now, whether you like it or not. But I didn't do anything except show up badly dressed. The words came out weak, incredulous. Exactly. And I turned that into a cultural movement. You're welcome. The arrogance was back. That small, irritating smile that made me want to both punch him and kiss him. A thought I immediately pushed far away. Your arrogance is impressive. My efficiency is impressive. Arrogance is a byproduct. He signaled the waiter, ordered something I didn't even register because my mind was still spinning around 500,000 followers. But here's the interesting part. The media wants more of you. The public wants to see you in something. And Morgan Studios is being pressured to give you a role. My heart stopped. Literally stopped for a second before coming back to beat twice as hard. What? Online petitions, tweets, articles. He pulled his phone from his pocket, swiped the screen and turned it toward me. Give Zara Cole a role. We want to see more of her. Put her in a movie. 10,000 signatures in 12 hours. I looked at the screen, at the impossible numbers, at comments from people I'd never met saying I deserved a chance, that they wanted to see me act. Tears burned behind my eyes and I blinked furiously to keep them away. This is surreal. This is Hollywood. Nothing makes sense but momentum matters. And you have momentum now. He put away his phone and looked at me directly. And there was something different there. Something I couldn't name. So I'm going to give you a role. The words took a second to sink in. When they did, they stole my breath completely. You're going to... I don't want to be forced into anything, he continued. And the irritation was clear in his voice now. But the reality is simple. The public loves you, the media loves you, and you're trending. If I don't give you a role, Morgan Studios will look out of touch and I lose credibility. So you're being forced. Something hurt in that. The idea that I was an obligation and not a choice. Basically, yes, and I hate being forced. He admitted with a reluctance that seemed to cost him a kidney. But you deserve to gain something from this. The words came out clipped, as if he was irritated with himself for saying them. And coincidentally, the situation forces this to happen, which means I can't say it was just your merit. I blinked, processing. That was almost a compliment again. It was an acknowledgement of facts. Different. You're terrible at compliments. I'm not paid to compliment. I'm paid to make the right decisions. And the right decision is to give you a leading role in the next movie. He said it like he was discussing any business deal, but my entire world had just turned upside down. Lead? My voice came out too loud and I had to force myself to breathe. I don't know what to say. Wait, he raised his hand, cutting off my gratitude before it could fully form. There's a condition. Of course there was. There always was. What? Amelia is spreading that I hired a ridiculous escort because no real woman wants me. The anger was controlled but present in his voice. Even with the viral success, she's turning it into a negative narrative. And I was already starting to see where this was going. And my stomach tightened in anticipation, and the public saw us together, loved the partnership, wants to see more. If we keep appearing together, in public, as partners. He paused, eyes studying me. Kills two birds. Partners, like fake couple. The words came out steadier than I felt. Exactly. You pretend to be my girlfriend for the next 3 months while you prep for the movie. The media loves it. The public loves it. Amelia loses credibility, and you get extra exposure before the movie premieres. He leaned back in his chair, confident, as if he were presenting a business proposal and not asking me to pretend to be in love with him. This is strategic manipulation. This is smart business. We both win. There was no shame or hesitation there, just pure pragmatism. What if I refuse? You still get the role because I'm forced to give it to you. Brutal honesty. But without the extra exposure, you come in as a forgotten trending topic instead of a rising actress with momentum. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or games, but all I saw was cold calculation and characteristic efficiency. You're basically saying you need me as much as I need you. His jaw locked, and I saw the effort it cost him to admit. The situation has placed us in a position of mutual dependence. Yes, small, petty satisfaction ran through my chest. That kills you to admit, doesn't it? Completely. I hate not having total control. Welcome to the club. I also hate depending on someone. And it was true. Every word. So we have something in common. Excessive pride. There was almost respect in his voice now. And stubbornness. He paused, waiting, and I realized he was actually waiting for my answer, not just assuming I'd accept. So, yes or no, I weighed the options. 3 months pretending to date the most attractive and irritating man I'd ever met. 3 months of public appearances, of having to act in love when the cameras were around. 3 months of proximity to someone who made my heart race in ways I didn't want to examine too closely. 3 months, fake dating, public appearances, and then guaranteed role. Role is already guaranteed because I'm forced, he corrected with that irritating precision. Fake dating is for mutual image benefit. Okay, I took a deep breath. I accept, but with rules. Interest sparked in his eyes. Which ones? 0 inappropriate touching and 0 pressure. Everything fake, nothing real. I needed to establish boundaries now, before lines started to blur. I'm agreed, and I have rules too. What? You show up when I say, where would I approve? And don't embarrass Morgan Studios publicly. Control. Always control with him. You're controlling. I'm protective of my reputation. And now yours too, since we're publicly connected. He leaned forward again, and I could feel his heat across the table, could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. So, do we have a deal? We have a deal. I extended my hand. Formal, professional. He looked at my hand for a second before taking it, and the touch was electric in a way I wasn't prepared for. Long fingers wrapping around mine. Palm warm and firm, a grip that lasted half a second longer than necessary. When he let go, I had to force my hands to stay still in my lap instead of rubbing where he'd touched. But Elias? Yes. I leaned forward too, meeting those challenging eyes. You may be arrogant and controlling, but I'm still an actress. I can pretend to be in love with you perfectly. Something darkened in his eyes, something dangerous and intense that made my breath catch. I'm sure you can. And can you pretend to like me without being condescending? A dangerous smile touched his lips. I'll try my best, but no guarantees. At least you're honest. Always am. Loaded pause, eyes still locked on mine. And Zara, one more thing. Yes, the media needs to believe it, so you need to be convincing. Can you do that? I already said, I'm an actress. I can fake anything. The words came out more confident than I felt, because pretending to be in love with Elias Morgan when my heart was already doing strange things around him seemed like a recipe for disaster. He studied my face for a long moment, and I wondered what he saw there. We'll find out. The rest of lunch passed in logistical discussion. Scheduled public appearances, events we'd need to attend together, the timeline for movie production. He was efficient and direct, turning our romantic farce into a business schedule, and I tried not to think about what it would be like to be close to him for 3 whole months. When we left the restaurant, there were photographers waiting. Of course there were. Elias had warned me, part of the strategy, but my stomach still tightened when I saw the cameras. Remember, he murmured in my ear, hand finding the curve of my back in a way that seemed natural, but sent heat running down my spine. You're in love with me. I'm acting in love. Difference, I whispered back, forcing a smile as the flashes exploded. As long as the cameras believe it, it doesn't matter. But there was something in his voice, something I couldn't identify. He took me to his car, a black Mercedes that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime, and dropped me off at my apartment with a promise to call tomorrow about the first official event. Zara, he called when I was getting out of the car. Yes, you were convincing today. Almost a compliment, almost recognition. Thanks, I think. He almost smiled. See you tomorrow. I ran upstairs to the apartment and called Olivia before even taking off my shoes. Did he give you the role? Not exactly. The public forced him to give me a role. I fell onto the couch, still processing everything. 500,000 new followers. Olivia, online petitions. I'm trending. That's amazing. And what else? I have to pretend to date him for 3 months. Silence on the other end. Then, Zara, this could be dangerous. What if you fall for real? Fall for Elias Morgan? Impossible. He's arrogant, controlling, and condescending. Even saying it, I remembered the way he'd looked at me in the restaurant, the way his touch had burned, but hot, irrelevant, and rich, also irrelevant. I'm not going to fall in love with him, Olivia. It's just business. I needed to believe that, needed it to be true. You promise? I promise. It's just acting. But after I hung up, I lay there staring at the ceiling of my small apartment and wondered if I was lying to Olivia or to myself, because there was something in the way Elias looked at me, something in the tension that grew every time we got too close. Something in the way my heart raced when he touched my waist. 3 months. I had 3 months to pretend to be in love with him without actually falling. Suddenly, getting the role seemed like the easy part. Across town, in an office with a view of all Los Angeles, Elias was having a similar conversation with Griffin. "Boss, you're going to pretend to date her. I'm forced to. My public image demands it," Elias answered without taking his eyes off the papers on his desk. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. It was on the way Zara had looked at him when he mentioned the role. Vulnerability and hope mixed in a way that made something in his chest tighten. And the fact that she's attractive, she's irritating, stubborn, and unknown. The words came out automatic. A defense built over years of not letting anyone too close. But attractive. Irrelevant. But it was relevant. Annoyingly relevant. And Elias hated that. "Boss, are you irritated because the public forced you to give her a role? Or because you like her and don't want to admit it?" Griffin had worked with him long enough to read through the defenses. "I don't like her, I barely know her." Lie. He'd spent half the night researching her, watching videos of old plays, reading reviews that praised wasted talent. "But you defended her yesterday, turned a possible disaster into her success, because it was smart strategy." "If you say so, boss." Griffin didn't sound even slightly convinced. "I do." And Griffin? "Yes, this is just fake dating, nothing more." He needed that to be true, needed to maintain control over the situation and over himself. Griffin looked at him for a long moment before saying simply, "Sure, until it's not." And as Griffin left, Elias was alone in the office, looking at the city he'd conquered, thinking about a girl in a simple blue dress who had looked at him like he was more than a calculating CEO. 3 months pretending to be in love with her. He'd faced tougher negotiations, built an empire from scratch, destroyed competitors without hesitation. But somehow, keeping his heart locked around Zara Cole seemed like the most impossible challenge he'd ever faced. And Elias Morgan had never failed at a challenge before. He wasn't going to start now. At least that's what he told himself. Chapter 3. Blurred Lines.
Tell me this is still fake, because it doesn't feel like it anymore.
The following weeks passed in a whirlwind of camera flashes, rehearsed smiles, and a closeness that was starting to feel dangerously real. Our first official public appearance as a couple was a dinner at a fancy restaurant in the heart of Beverly Hills. "They'll be there at 8, Elias had said on the phone. "Wear something elegant. Red would be ideal in my opinion. Red would be ideal, as if I had a closet full of red options instead of just 3 decent dresses and an impressive collection of leggings with holes." When he opened the car door for me that night, his hand found mine with a touch that sent heat running up my arm. "Remember, you're in love with me." "I'm acting in love. There's a difference." I tried to ignore the way his voice so close made my brain temporarily short-circuit. "As long as the cameras believe it, it doesn't matter." "You're so romantic," I muttered with irony, as we smiled for the photographer's lenses. "I'm realistic. Now let's go." Inside the restaurant, surrounded by other elegant diners, my phone started exploding with notifications. Elias Morgan and Zara Cole are official. They're Hollywood's best couple. If only they knew that Hollywood's best couple had just argued in the car about which route was faster to get there. "This is so weird," I whispered, looking at him across the table. "People actually think we're a real couple, because you're acting well. Keep doing that. You could at least pretend you like being here with me." He looked at me for a long moment before responding. "I don't hate being here. Does that count for something?" "Counts as half kindness. It's progress. Don't get used to kindness. It's not my strong suit." But he almost smiled when he said it. I noticed. "You have the emotional range of a teaspoon. I'd say it's more of a coffee spoon." Wait, was he making a joke about himself? Public appearances multiplied after that. Gala events where his hand always found my waist with the justification that it was for the photos. Casual walks in parks where paparazzi always coincidentally showed up at the exact moment I had ice cream dripping down my chin. "You did that on purpose," I accused him after the 4th photo. "Absolutely not." But he was almost laughing. The traitor. "You scheduled the photographers to show up exactly when you ate ice cream like a 5-year-old. Zara, I can't control your lack of basic motor coordination. I have perfect coordination. The red carpet was uneven. It was a carpet, literally designed to be flat." The romantic dinners gradually became more natural, with conversations flowing and genuine laughter. Like that time I ordered a dish with a sophisticated French name without knowing what it was, and it came out basically raw meat. "It's tartare," Elias explained with the face of someone holding back from laughing at my horrified expression. "It's raw meat. It's a French delicacy. It's a cow that hasn't even met fire yet." I looked at the plate like it might attack me, and it's still glistening. "Want to switch with me?" he offered. and for the first time seemed genuinely amused by my existence. "You're like a hero now. You saved me from a traumatic experience. Add it to my resume. Saves damsels from tartar." I started to notice something that scared me more than raw meat. Elias was different when there weren't cameras around. Less arrogant, more human, and occasionally even funny in a dry way I didn't expect. As if the ruthless CEO persona was just a mask he wore for the world. But with me, in private moments, something more real emerged. It was during a rehearsal for an event at his apartment that the lines really started to blur. We were supposedly reviewing the speech he'd give, and he just corrected me for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Why are you always so controlling?" He turned to me. "I'm not controlling. I'm organized. You literally pick my outfits for events. You have a color-coded spreadsheet. That's being efficient. That's being psychotic. Because you showed up to our first date looking like a clown. Forgive my lack of confidence in your fashion sense. That was for the job, and it worked. I became a fashion icon for looking like a clown. It was luck, and because I saved the situation," his voice rose, and seeing Elias Morgan lose his composure was like seeing a unicorn. "Your arrogance is unbearable. You probably have a most arrogant trophy stored somewhere. And your stubbornness is exhausting. You'd argue with a wall if the wall disagreed with you. At least I don't organize my closet by color gradient like a fashion serial killer. That's called adult organization." Silence fell between us, heavy and charged with a tension that definitely wasn't just anger. We were too close, breathing hard, eyes locked on each other in a way that made the air seem thinner and my brain make that dial-up internet noise. "You drive me crazy," he said, voice low and hoarse in a way that sent my nervous system on unauthorized vacation. My face heated like a furnace. "You irritate me too, constantly. It's your special talent. But you act well when you need to." His voice had changed, gotten softer. "Thanks, I think." Was that a compliment or a disguised insult? With you, I can never tell. His eyes dropped to my lips, just for a second, but it was enough time to make my breathing forget how to work. The moment stretched, tense and full of possibilities. Then he pulled away fast like he'd touched a hot stove. "Let's review the speech for the event." "Okay," I agreed, my brain still like, what just happened? Olivia noticed the change before I even admitted it to myself. We were at her apartment when she interrupted me with the subtlety of a runaway train. "Zara, you're different." "Different how?" "You smile when you talk about him now." She looked at me with that detective expression of someone who just solved a case. "I don't smile. You just smiled now when you said him." She pointed at me accusingly. "It's just that he's not as unbearable as I thought." "Like 70% unbearable instead of 100%. "Oh no!" Olivia covered her face with her hands dramatically. "You're falling. You're falling for the arrogant CEO, and I can see it happening in real time like a car crash in slow motion." "I'm not. It's fake. Everything is fake. Super fake. It's like a knockoff bag level of fake." But the words sounded like a badly told lie. "If you say so." What I didn't know was that Elias was having equally disastrous conversations with Griffin. He'd shown up with flowers for me at one of the events, beautiful peonies that were coincidentally my favorites, and Griffin had smelled blood like a shark. "Boss, you brought her flowers." "It was for the photos. The media loves flowers. It's a proven strategy," Elias answered without looking up from his papers. "But you bought her favorites, peonies." "How did you know that?" Elias froze. She mentioned it at some point. It's an irrelevant detail for the overall strategy. You're paying attention to her. That's new for you." "I pay attention to everything. It's my job." "You're falling in love," Griffin declared as if commenting on the weather. "Don't be ridiculous. It's business. Pure business." But his voice had gotten too defensive. "If you say so, boss. But you never bought flowers for any of the others. You once even forgot one of their names during an event, because none of them mattered to the public image like she does." When Elias took me to visit Morgan Studios for the first time, I finally started to understand why he had so many control issues. I saw his power, the respect mixed with fear that all the employees showed, the constant pressure, the decisions that affected hundreds of people. An assistant literally threw himself to open a door for him. "Is this normal?" I whispered to him. "He's new, trying to impress." "That's why you're like this," I said when we were alone in his office. "Controlling. You have to be, or someone's going to hurt themselves trying to open doors for you." Genuine surprise crossed his face. Most people don't understand that. Most people only see the surface. The arrogant CEO with the color-coded closet. I turned to look at him directly. "But I see a man carrying an absurd weight who can't show weakness. Must be exhausting, and kind of dangerous for the assistants." Vulnerability flashed in his eyes for just a second. "It is. And yes, We've had 3 door-opening related accidents. You're kidding. Unfortunately not. HR now has a specific protocol for it. Then he closed off again. But I handle it. I always handle it. And I've already implemented a new safety training program. You probably have a spreadsheet for that too. I do. It's coded by risk level. It was at a gala event 2 weeks later that Amelia reappeared like a soap opera villain in an expensive red dress and a venomous smile. So you're his new thing. I stared at her directly. And you're the bitter ex? Pleasure to meet you. She laughed with a cold sound. Bitter? Sweetie, I know how he works. He uses and then discards. You're just next in line. Or maybe you were disposable and I'm not. Have you considered that possibility? Irritation flared in her eyes. You think you're special? Because of the ridiculous viral that I created? You tried to use me to humiliate him, but we became icons. So thanks for the opportunity. Want me to send a thank you basket? They have them on Amazon. When he gets tired of you, and he will get tired, you'll be alone again serving coffee. At least I'll have the career he gave me. What do you have? Bitterness and canceled contracts. I heard you're doing hemorrhoid medication commercials now. Careful. Zara, you don't know the rules of this world yet. But I do, Amelia. Elias's voice came from behind me, and suddenly his arm was around my waist protectively. And you're breaking the main one. Don't mess with what's mine. My heart. He said mine? She's not really yours. Elias looked at me with an intensity that did illegal things to my cardiovascular system. That's a problem for me and her to decide, not you. Amelia left furious, and I stood there processing everything. You didn't have to do that. I was handling it fine. I know. I heard the hemorrhoid part. It was creative. He seemed kind of impressed. I made that part up. I know, but it worked. She turned purple. He almost smiled for real. Now let's dance. The media is watching. He led me to the dance floor when a slow song started playing. His hands found my waist, large and warm, even through the fabric of the dress. You dance well. Mandatory lessons in childhood. Part of being a Morgan. Along with how to intimidate people with a look and advanced closet organization. Must have been a rigid childhood. It was. There were high expectations and no room for error. If I stumbled in a waltz, it was practically a character flaw. He spun me gently. Is that why you're so perfect at everything? He looked at me surprised. You think I'm perfect? My face ignited. Perfectly irritating, but yes, you're good at everything you do. His voice got softer. You are too. Acting, adapting, surviving. You're stronger than you appear, and you have better comic timing than half the comedians I've tried to hire. My heart exploded. That was a real compliment. Do I need to record this? It was an honest observation based on empirical data, but he was almost smiling. Elias? Yes? Sometimes I forget this is fake. The confession escaped, vulnerable and true. Something changed in his look, darkened like a storm approaching. Me too. The moment stretched, charged with everything we weren't saying. When the music ended, we both pulled away too fast. Let's get a drink. Yes, good idea. Drink, alcohol, normal things that normal people do. In the car on the way home, silence weighed between us. You were different today, I finally said. Different how? Less arrogant, more real, like a real person with feelings. I'm always real, but the defensiveness was back. No, you're always controlled. Today you were real. I saw the person underneath the robotic CEO. The cameras demand authenticity. It's part of the strategy. There weren't cameras when you defended me from Amelia, or when you talked about your childhood, or when you danced with me. Zara, yes, this is still fake. Don't forget that. But he didn't look at me when he said it. Something hurt deep in my chest. Of course. How could I forget? Totally fake. Silence fell again, and I looked out the window while tears burned behind my eyes, because it was starting to get really hard to remember where the acting ended and where the real feelings began. And by the way his jaw was locked, by the way his hands gripped the steering wheel too hard, I had the terrible suspicion he was having the same problem. The thought he carefully hid, because I'm forgetting, and it terrifies me more than any business deal, any risk, anything I've ever faced. She's making me feel things I swore I'd never feel again, and I don't know how to stop. Worse, I don't know if I want to stop. But he didn't say any of that. He just dropped me off at my apartment with a curt, "See you tomorrow," and drove away, leaving me alone with the confusion and a heart that was falling in love with a man who insisted everything was fake, even when every touch, every look, every stolen moment screamed otherwise. Chapter 4. Confessions and Kisses.
I don't know when it stopped being an act, but I know it's real now.
The following weeks were the strangest and most wonderful of my life, because at some point between the calculated public appearances and the tense rehearsals at his apartment, the line between fake and real had simply disappeared. We'd stopped pretending when the cameras went away. We were together for real now, secretly, hiding from the world the fact that the fake relationship had become absolutely real. Filming for my first leading role started, and I was simultaneously terrified and vibrating with excitement. The director was incredible, the cast was talented, and for the first time in my life I was doing exactly what I'd dreamed of since childhood. And I was shining. Even I could see it in the footage. "Cut! Perfect, Zara!" the director shouted after a particularly emotional scene, and I felt that wave of relief and satisfaction. I ran to my trailer to grab water and catch my breath, and almost died when I found Elias already inside, sitting on the tiny couch like he owned the place, scrolling through his phone with that concentrated expression. "You can't keep showing up in my trailer like this. People are going to get suspicious," I said, quickly closing the door and looking around like there were hidden spies. He pulled me onto his lap with a smooth, practiced movement. "Let them be suspicious. But you said to keep the real part secret," I protested, even as I settled against his chest because apparently my self-control had gone on permanent vacation. I said to keep the real part secret. "The public already thinks we're a fake PR couple. Nobody suspects it's actually real," he explained with that twisted logic that somehow made complete sense. "This is too confusing. We're pretending when it's actually real." Exactly. Layers of deception. It's perfect. He kissed me, and I completely forgot why I was complaining. The problem was that Elias visited the set every day, officially as executive producer supervising the studio's investment, but in reality to see me. He always had some elaborate professional excuse that fooled everyone but me. "But you're here again," I said one day, finding him talking to the director about camera angles. "I have a meeting with the post-production team in a bit." He answered with the straightest face in the universe. "The post-production team hasn't even started working yet. We're literally on day 3 of filming. Advanced planning is essential for project efficiency. Shameless liar with a degree in lying. You're terrible at lying. I'm excellent at lying. You just know me too well now." And he smiled in that way that made my stomach do Olympic somersaults. But it was on one specific night that everything truly changed. I was at his mansion, had slept over because we'd had dinner together, and stayed up late watching a bad movie and making sarcastic comments about everything. It was 3 a.m, and I couldn't sleep, nervous about a difficult scene I'd have to film the next day. So I went down to his kitchen, that huge, intimidating kitchen with appliances that probably cost more than my car. I was making a sandwich, or trying to make one because his fridge had 20 different types of cheese and I didn't know which to use, when I heard footsteps behind me. "Can't sleep either." Elias's voice made me jump with fright, almost knocking over the mustard jar. "You scared me. I thought you were sleeping." My heart was beating like a rock drum, and I noticed you weren't in bed and came to investigate. Thought maybe there were burglars making sandwiches in my kitchen. He approached, wearing only pajama pants and apparently determined to kill me with that look. "Sorry, I couldn't sleep." "Why awake?" He took the cheese I was holding and started cutting perfect slices because of course he knew how to cut cheese perfectly. "Nervous about the filming that starts tomorrow. It's a heavy scene, lots of emotional weight, and I keep thinking, what if I ruin everything?" He stopped cutting and looked at me directly. "You're going to be amazing." "How do you know?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Because I saw you act under absurd pressure on that horrible first date, and you were perfect. You turned a complete disaster into a triumph. If you can do that, you can do anything." There was something so genuine in his voice that it made my chest tighten. We stood there, very close to each other, the tension building between us like it always did. He finished the sandwich for me, handed it over, and when his fingers touched mine, something electric passed between us. "Besides," he continued, going back to the fridge, "you have natural talent I rarely see. It was my luck that the public forced me to give you this role." I froze. His words hit like a punch to the stomach. Forced. He didn't notice the tone in my voice. "Yes, the online petitions, the media pressure, but it ended up being an obligation." I finished. Voice cold now. "You were forced to give me the role." Elias finally noticed the mistake. "Zara, that's not what I meant." "No, you made it pretty clear. The public forced you. You had no choice." I was an inconvenient obligation that became convenient. The words came out bitter, hurt. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it, Elias? Because lucky I was forced seems pretty specific." I put the sandwich on the counter, my appetite completely gone. "I was just saying that the situation ended up being good for both of us. Good for you, because you got a fake girlfriend who became real without effort. Good for me because I got charity from the powerful CEO. I was being unfair, and I knew it, but the pain was talking louder. It's not charity." "No? Then what is it?" Because you just said you were forced. I was already leaving the kitchen, tears burning in my eyes. Zara, wait, I need air. And I practically ran to the guest room where I'd left my things, grabbed my bag and left the mansion before he could stop me. The next day, Griffin found Elias in his office, looking out the window with an expression Griffin rarely saw, genuine guilt. You hurt her, Griffin said without beating around the bush. I know. Elias ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. I said it wrong. It came out completely wrong. You said you were forced to give her the role. I was trying to make a joke about how things worked out well, and it came out like she was a burden. Elias turned around, visibly irritated with himself. Boss, did you want to give her the role? Silence. Boss? I did. The words came out reluctant. Since that first night, when I saw her act under all that pressure, but I couldn't admit it then. Why not? Because when I admit it, it becomes real. And when it becomes real, I lose control. His voice was tense. What if it's worth losing control? It's never worth it. You're afraid of her, Griffin observed calmly. Elias laughed without humor. I'm not afraid of her. I'm afraid of what I feel for her. The way she makes me want things I swore I'd never want again. The way she tore down every defense I spent years building. Then go there and tell her that, not me. And that's exactly what Elias did. He showed up at her apartment an hour later, knocking on the door with his heart in his throat. Zara opened, surprised. Elias, how do you know where I live? Griffin gave me the address weeks ago. Can I come in? She hesitated, but eventually let him. He entered and looked around the small apartment, so different from his mansion, but with something welcoming his house never had. You live here? He couldn't hold back the question. Not everyone is a billionaire with a mansion, she answered defensively. It wasn't criticism. It's cozy. He turned to her. I came to apologize. Zara blinked, genuinely shocked. You, apologizing? This is like a solar eclipse? I know it's rare, but I messed up yesterday. Why did you say that? That you were forced? Elias took a deep breath. Because I told you I was forced to give you the role, when the truth is, I wanted to give you that role since I saw you act that first night. So why did you lie? Because admitting I wanted to means admitting you affect me, that you changed something in me, and I hate being affected because it means losing control. He took a step toward her. And is this still fake to you? Zara asked, voice small. It should be, but is it? Elias looked into her eyes. No, it's not fake to me anymore. It hasn't been fake for weeks. And that terrifies me more than any business deal, any risk I've ever faced, because I've never truly fallen in love before. Tears came to her eyes. You're saying that? I'm saying you drive me crazy, that I think about you constantly, that when that Amelia attacked you I wanted to destroy her, that when you smile something in my chest tightens in a way I didn't know was possible. I hate being out of control, but with you, I don't want to have control. I fell in love with you too, Zara whispered. Even though you're impossible and arrogant and have that scary closet, can I kiss you? For real this time? Not for cameras, not for the public. Just because I need to. Please. The kiss was different from all the others. It wasn't for show. It wasn't calculated. It had nothing fake about it. It was desperate and true, and full of all the emotions they'd been holding back for weeks. When they separated, Zara was laughing and crying at the same time. So now what do we do? Now this becomes real. But Zara? He brushed a strand of hair from her face. And nobody can know yet. The media thinks we're already real. But I want to protect this. Keep what we really have private. Until when? Until I'm sure we're ready for the world to see us for real. I trust you. She nestled against his chest. He held her tight, finally allowing himself to feel everything without fear. And thank you. And there, in that tiny apartment so different from his world, Elias Morgan finally stopped fighting the only thing he could never control, his own heart. Chapter 5. Revelations and Sabotage.
They're saying everything was a lie, including us.
The following weeks were the happiest of my life. We were together for real now, secretly, hiding from the world the fact that the fake relationship had become absolutely and completely real. It was strange and wonderful at the same time. The public thought we were still faking it for public relations, but every kiss, every touch, every whispered word was genuine. The filming of the movie was going incredibly well. I was finally doing what I'd dreamed of my whole life, and even better, I was killing it. The director constantly praised me. The other actors commented on my emotional delivery, and I could feel I was creating something special. Cut. Perfect, Zara, the director shouted after a particularly intense scene. That was exactly what I needed. Take a break. I ran to my trailer, sweaty and emotionally exhausted, but also vibrating with adrenaline. When I opened the door, I almost had a heart attack finding Elias already inside, sitting on my tiny couch like he owned the place, scrolling through his phone with that concentrated expression he always had when he was working. "You can't keep showing up in my trailer like this. People are going to get suspicious," I said, quickly closing the door behind me and looking around like there were spies hidden in every corner. He looked up, that small smile appearing. "Let them be suspicious." "But you were very specific about keeping this secret," I protested, even as I walked toward him because apparently my self-control had gone on permanent vacation with no return date. He pulled me onto his lap in a smooth movement. "I said to keep the real part secret. The public already thinks we're a fake PR couple. Nobody suspects it's actually real now." He kissed my neck, making me completely forget what my argument was. "This is too confusing. We're like in Inception, but for relationships. But it works perfectly." He kissed me for real now, and I melted against him. The problem was that Elias visited the set every day, officially as executive producer, supervising the studio's multi-million-dollar investment, but in reality, just to see me. He always had some elaborate professional excuse that fooled everyone but me. "You're here again," I commented one day, finding him talking to the director about lighting like he was an expert on the subject. "I have an important meeting with the editing team in a bit," he answered with the straightest face in the universe. "The editing team won't even start working until next month. Advanced planning is the key to success. Shameless liar with a master's degree in lies. You're ridiculous. You love me anyway." And he was right, the irritating man. What we didn't know was that Amelia Cross was watching everything with eagle eyes. She'd noticed something different in the way Elias looked at me, in the way I smiled when I was near him. There was a genuine intimacy there that didn't exist before, a real connection that even an experienced actress like her could identify. So she hired a private investigator, spent a small fortune to follow me, to follow us, to document every moment, and finally got what she wanted. A photo of the two of us kissing in the studio parking lot, far from any official cameras, far from any public event, just the two of us lost in each other. "And so it became real," she murmured to herself, looking at the photo on the computer with a venomous smile forming on her red-painted lips. "Perfect. Now I can destroy them both at once." Amelia didn't just leak the photo. She leaked everything. Copies of the initial contract that proved we'd started as a farce. Emails exchanged in the beginning. Every piece of evidence that showed our relationship had been built on top of a calculated lie. I woke up with my phone literally exploding with notifications. Not just a few. Hundreds. Thousands. Every time I unlocked the screen, more appeared like an infinite digital hydra. CEO Morgan paid unknown actress to fake relationship. Elias and Zara's relationship was a farce from the start. Zara Cole, gold digger or victim of manipulation. Hollywood's biggest public relations scam exposed. Actress used billionaire CEO to get role. I felt the world crumble around me. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the phone. My chest tightened, breathing became difficult, and tears started streaming with no control. Olivia called within seconds. "Zara, the media has gone completely wild." "I know." I was sobbing now, crying in a way I hadn't cried since childhood. "My career is over before it even really started, Olivia. The public is going to hate me for faking it. They'll think I'm a liar, an opportunist, a gold digger. But you're not faking anymore. You're real now. You told me, but it started as fake, Olivia. Nobody's going to believe it became real after. They'll think it's just another layer of the lie." Panic was suffocating me, making the room spin. "They'll think I'm making this up just to save my image." What did Elias say? Nothing yet. He's in an emergency meeting with his legal team. More tears came, more despair. I ruined everything. I ruined his career, mine, the movie, everything. People are going to boycott the movie before it even premieres. Meanwhile, across town at the Morgan Studios offices, Elias was absolutely and completely furious. Not the kind of cold, calculated anger people normally associated with him, but a white-hot, intense fury that made Griffin literally take 3 steps back. "Boss, Amelia leaked everything to the media." "I know. My entire timeline won't stop updating with this." Elias threw his phone on the desk with such force that Griffin was surprised it didn't break. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fix this. I'm going to protect her." The determination in his voice was absolute, unshakable. "How exactly?" Griffin asked, genuinely curious because he'd never seen his boss like this. "The only way I know how, with the complete truth." And Elias was already grabbing his car keys, already moving toward the door. Griffin tried to protest. "Boss, the lawyers explicitly said for you to wait, not to make any public statement until they review. I'm not waiting while she's being destroyed in the media. I'm not letting Zara carry this guilt alone when half of it was my fault." Elias was already at the office door. "Schedule a press conference. Now. Immediately." I don't care if you have to wake up every reporter in Los Angeles. An hour later, Elias Morgan was in front of a true sea of reporters, cameras, microphones, and cell phones recording. The entire world was literally watching live, and he was about to do something he'd never done before in his life, be completely and totally vulnerable in public. Elias, is it true about the fake contract? The reporters shouted like an angry mob. He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders. Yes, it's true. In the beginning, it was a business arrangement. I was pressured by the public to give Zara a role after that viral moment, and we decided to use the situation for mutual public image benefit. It was calculated, it was strategic, and it was completely fake. The murmuring grew like a wave, cameras flashing frantically, people shouting questions. But, Elias continued, and the vulnerability in his voice was so shocking it silenced the entire room. That was only in the beginning, the first few days, the first few weeks. After that, everything changed. And now, a reporter asked, voice tense with pure anticipation. Elias looked directly at the main camera, as if speaking directly to Zara through the screen. Now I'm in love with her, for real, completely, irrevocably. In a way, I didn't even know it was possible to be in love. Silence so deep, you could hear a pin drop took over the room. You're saying you love Zara Cole? Another reporter asked, completely incredulous. Yes, I love her. The fake arrangement ended weeks ago. What you see now, it's real. Every appearance, every smile, every moment we share, it's all true and genuine. I love her in a way that scares me and completes me at the same time. He paused, swallowed hard. And the role she has in the movie? It's not because I was forced by the public. It's because she deserves it. She's an incredible actress who deserved a chance years ago, and I'm proud to have been the person who finally gave her that opportunity. What about Amelia Cross? A reporter shouted from the crowd. Elias's expression hardened like steel. Amelia tried to destroy Zara out of pathetic revenge against me. She used a situation that was genuinely complex and turned it into a weapon to hurt innocent people. Morgan Studios is cutting all contracts with her permanently and irreversibly. And I'm personally suing her for defamation, invasion of privacy, and anything else my lawyers can find. What's your message to Zara? A young reporter asked, eyes shining. Elias looked directly at the camera again, and the intensity in his eyes was breathtaking to anyone watching. Zara, if you're watching this, and I know you are, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not protecting what we have better. I'm sorry for waiting so long to say this publicly, but I love you. This is real. Nothing Amelia did or said changes what I feel for you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving to you and to the entire world that what we have is the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Chapter 6. Truth and Ending.
I don't care what the world believes anymore.
I was watching the press conference in Olivia's living room, with her laptop precariously balanced between us on the couch. Tears were streaming down my face with no control, but this time, they weren't tears of despair or humiliation. They were tears of something completely different. Something that made my chest tighten in a good way. He said he loves me, I whispered, barely able to process the words. Publicly, in front of the entire world, risking everything. And now, Olivia practically screamed next to me, gripping my arm hard. Zara, what are you going to do? I wiped the tears with the back of my hand, stood up from the couch so fast I almost tripped over my own feet. I need to talk to him. Now. Immediately. You're going there? Like that? In leggings and an old t-shirt? Olivia, the man just declared eternal love on live TV and probably became a meme in 15 languages. I think he's not going to care about my outfit. I was already grabbing my bag, looking for my car keys. At least put on some gloss. I don't have time for gloss. I have to get there before he makes another dramatic declaration and becomes a worldwide trending topic, I shouted, already heading out the door. I drove like I was in an action movie car chase, probably violating about 15 traffic laws in the process. When I arrived at Morgan Studios, I parked the car crooked, taking up 2.5 spaces because precision wasn't a priority at the moment. I entered the building like a hurricane, with wind-blown hair and probably looking like a crazy person. The receptionist tried to stop me. Excuse me, ma'am. You need authorization to... I'm his girlfriend. The real one. The one he just declared his love for on TV. I practically shouted, walking right past her. But ma'am, you can't just... I was already in the elevator, repeatedly pressing the button for the top floor like that would make it go up faster. When the doors opened, I practically ran down the hallway, ignoring the shocked looks from employees. Elias's assistants tried to bar me at his office door. Miss Cole, Mr. Morgan is on an important call. He's going to have to hang up. I pushed the door open and walked in without knocking. Elias was standing near the window, still in an impeccable suit, despite the clearly stressful day. When he turned and saw me there, standing in the doorway with wind-blown hair and probably looking like a lunatic, the relief on his face was so obvious it was almost comical. "Zara, you're an idiot!" I shouted, slamming the door behind me. He blinked, completely confused. "What? You made a public declaration without talking to me first. You risked your reputation, your entire company. You're probably becoming a meme on Twitter right this second." The words came out in a furious stream as I walked toward him. He approached too, with that intense expression. "I needed to protect you. But what about you?" I was like laughing and crying at the same time now, completely out of control. "What if this destroys your career? Everything you built?" He held my face with both hands, forcing me to look directly into his eyes, and then let it destroy everything. "I'd rather have you and lose everything than have everything and lose you. You just quoted a cheap drugstore romance novel," I said through tears, but I was smiling. "Did it work?" "Unfortunately, yes. You impossible idiot." I cried harder now. "And you're stubborn and dramatic and eat ice cream like a 5-year-old. He wiped my tears with his thumbs. "But I love that about you. I love everything about you." "I love you too," I whispered. "Even though you're controlling and arrogant and have that scary closet organized by gradient. Even after everything that happened. All this mess, especially after..." I held his wrists. "You defended me when nobody else would. You risked everything for me. I'll always defend you, Zara. You're mine." There was that possessiveness in his voice that made my stomach do somersaults. Hence possessive to the end, completely and without any apologies. And then he kissed me. The kiss was real, intense, without pretense, without fear, without cameras, morons, without an audience. It was just the two of us. Finally honest, finally free. 6 months later, we were on the red carpet at the movie premiere, together for real, no fake, no secrets, no contracts. I was in a beautiful, elegant dress, feeling confident in a way I'd never felt before. "Zara, what a difference from the first time we saw you with Elias," a reporter shouted, clearly remembering my polka dot dress with cargo pants look. I laughed genuinely. "Yes, this time I chose the dress, and Elias approved it. He only made 10 comments about color coordination instead of 15. They were constructive comments," Elias murmured in my ear, hand possessive on my waist. "Still too many, honey. So you're a real couple now." "Officially?" another reporter asked. "Completely real," I answered, looking at Elias with that stupid smile I couldn't control around him. "More real than anything I've ever had in my life," Elias added, pulling me closer. The movie reviews were incredible. Zara Cole is a revelation. Performance deserving of an Oscar nomination. She finally got the chance she always deserved. The audience loved it too. And she deserved this opportunity. Best Hollywood discovery in years. At the private party after the premiere, away from the cameras and reporters, Elias pulled me to a quieter corner. "I can't believe we did it," I said, still processing everything. "You did it. You killed it. I just gave you the opportunity." There was genuine pride in his voice. "You gave more than that." I held his face. "You gave me confidence, love. You gave me everything. And you gave me a reason to be more than a cold, calculating CEO. You made me feel again. You made me truly live." He kissed my forehead. "So we're kind of mutual saviors." Exactly that. He smiled in that way that still made my heart race. "Thanks for being forced by the public to give me this role." I was laughing now, remembering how it all started. He laughed too, that genuine laugh I loved. "Thanks for accepting that questionable job and falling into my life." Literally falling. Ridiculously dressed with huge glasses and a crooked bun. Best accident of my life. And he kissed me again, sweet and perfect. She was paid to look ugly, to humiliate him, to be a joke. But she transformed sabotage into opportunity, fake dating into real love, and $10,000 into her dream career. He was forced by the public to give her a chance, but he fell in love by his own choice, lost control for the first time in his life, and gained everything that truly mattered. Because sometimes the best stories start with the worst intentions, and Zara Cole, she acted the role of her life, the role of herself, in love, brave, and finally recognized. And Elias Morgan, he lost control for the first time, and discovered that losing control was the best thing that had ever happened to him.